Welcome to In Bloom. I'm Kenza Gray, the co-founder and director of Grey Area Gallery, and In Bloom is our latest exhibition showcasing the work of emerging artist Grace E.J. Wiggins. Grace's series is her latest series, which was conceived during her time at the Norwich University of Arts doing her BA in Fine Art. We wanted to bring all of this body of work into one room, hoping and inviting viewers to reflect on their own journeys of growth and self-discovery. Behind me is a piece titled What Once Was. This was the first piece that Grace did in this series, so the first piece in this style of using acrylic ink on a raw canvas with that fluid movement in which she paints with her body, and then returning to it later to do the detailed parts of the embroidery. So the stitching is an aspect that Grace does after the painting is done. She returns to it to do these details, sometimes only one area, or sometimes there's multiple spots across the canvas that these embroidered, I would say, growths are featured.
These pieces are my mini-series, so they're testers for the big pieces. I explore and experiment with different colours and forms, and then the different techniques are adding, or how much water I add, and then how much acrylic ink I add. I sit and I stitch into them and work out different formations of growths and what stitch I want to use, what colours work best together, and what colours are best to portray what I'm feeling in that moment and how I can translate that over to the audience. And another part of my practice is trying to be as sustainable as possible. So for a few of them, they are cut up larger pieces that I wasn't 100% sure on the whole composition. So instead of leaving them to sit and collect dust, I thought I'd rather reimagine them and just cut them up and make them into something new that's a bit more accessible for people. There's another sustainable piece that we will show you next. So this is an accessible zine that I made out of an original growth series canvas that I wasn't entirely comfortable with finishing. So instead of leaving it to just sit on the side and become wasteful, I decided to cut it up and make it into a little zine that visitors can come and look through and see the stitching on different pages and just kind of see the layout of it. And it's just also a way to experiment with different compositions and layouts and just to make things a bit more accessible, because well, no one can touch the big canvases, so with this piece like this people can feel the kind of the texture of the stitching, which I really like. So this is growth number 4, so part of my growth series for my final graduate showcase at Norwich University of the Arts. This piece is my favourite, or one of my favourites, mainly because it was an accident, and well, a happy accident, and that always works quite well. So the reason it was an accident is because I put the wrong colours, but I say wrong colours, they can't be wrong now, they're definitely right because it's one of my favourite pieces, but there's certain areas of the canvas where I didn't expect the result. So as I add water to the acrylic, I never really have full control over the final outcome, but this was the first time where I was like, oh, I could use this to my advantage, and having areas of light kind of bleed into the dark bits and then bleed again back into light is really intriguing to me. So this has started a kind of a new way of working and experimenting with how I actually put paint on the canvas. And there's certain bits as well that kind of reference the stitching as well, with all the growth. I call them growth bits. It's kind of, well, it's as the ink bleeds. And the bleeding in the paint replicates this kind of this notion in my head about growing and evolving, and it's kind of stamped onto the final image. So there's just a lot of detail and texture in this work, and that's why it's one of my favourites as well. It's just this new things that I find every time I look at it, which is nice.
We've just closed the doors on In Bloom. I hope that if you didn't get to come in person, this has given you a little insight into the exhibition and a good introduction to Grace's artworks and her creative process. Some of Grace's artworks are still available. You can find these on our website, along with more information about the artist and the gallery. Thank you to everyone for coming and showing support to us and to Grace, and we can't wait to welcome you into our next exhibition.